Welcome to the Leverage Your Influence podcast, where we talk to amazing people who are doing amazing things with podcasting and spreading their message and mission around the world. Today, we're honored to have Cassian Bellino. I think I just butchered her name again. Cass Bellino. She is joining us today. She is the host of a podcast that talks about the best-selling book in the entire world. And she has turned her questions into a thriving platform, and she's going to tell us her story. Cassian, welcome to the podcast.
Coach GP, thank you so much for having me.
Honored to have you. So you're not in Hawaii today, but you're still on the West Coast. And so can you describe briefly the weather where you are right now?
Well, it's a blue sky Arizona day, a couple clouds over by Mount Lemmon, very, very hot in the shade, but no rain, no bugs, and it's perfect for, late spring, not yet monsoon season, but, had a really great morning with my family, and now I'm having a great conversation with you, so it's going to be a good day.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So there's a quote that says, every person is just a name until you know their story. And so
Ooh, I like that.
in a minute or two or three, share your story with our audience.
Okay, a minute or two or three. I will try my best. But to kind of keep it quick, I'm a curious and confused Christian. I'm the youngest of four kids. I'm enmeshed with my family. And I think that living authentically is the easiest way for us to grow. And I found myself very stuck in my faith in a family that took their faith very seriously. So when I became an adult, I found myself not really in it as much as I thought I should, kind of like a sanctification gap of, well, somebody who's raised in the faith should feel a lot deeper about this. And maybe it was just the wonderful parents that I had, but I felt safe enough to say, I don't get it. And if God is so great, let me see that. And I don't want to get caught up in the religion or the things I'm supposed to do, quote unquote. But who is Jesus and why do people think he's so cool? Because if you can objectively explain that to me, then believing shouldn't be a problem. But the faith that I was raised in didn't answer the specific questions I had.
Hmm.
So that really was a journey that God put on specifically my heart. And I followed faithfully after many times telling him he got the wrong girl. I really tried to give him an out. Like, I am not the one to represent the faith, but he faithfully gave me a response to every issue, every question, every obstacle. And even when I had no guests, I had no talent, I had no equipment, he provided. And that was like, okay, well, all I have is my questions then. I don't have talent, I don't have skill, I don't even have guests. I just have questions. And he used that to create these conversations with globally renowned scholars who were willing, first of all, to come on my show and talk to a nobody. And I said, this doesn't make sense. And it has just progressively gone deeper and deeper. I mean, you listen to the first part of my podcast, season one, episode one. I'm an idiot. I literally have no idea. Like, the Gospels are the same book, written about the same story, four different ways. I didn't even know that. And I was raised in the faith. And there were a couple viral moments of just like mic drop. And that has only progressed as the conversations got more advanced. And now I think that it is so powerful to understand our faith from a place of humility, of knowing what we don't know. And just through that, like, it's a completely different way to understand the faith of God, of just saying, I'm going to lay this at your feet and say and admit I don't know, despite giving my life to you. And then he answers in the way that works for you. So I'm just on this journey of admitting that I'm an idiot. I have questions. I want to raise my hand in church, and I'm going to go about it in the way that works for me. And God has been fruitful in just providing the resources I need. So this podcast is really just for those that just want to know the faith. And I try to be as broad in my approach in that. I just had an Orthodox priest on. I've had a Messianic rabbi. I'm having a Catholic pastor or Catholic professor on. Most of my content is Protestant, but I'm really trying to keep away from being a sermon or a devotional or an altar call, but simply people that want to know can get their questions answered.
That is absolutely phenomenal that you began
Thank you.
with an honest assessment of your questions. You had a lot of questions, and you said, I want to talk to other people. And you had the boldness to say yes to God's leading in your life, to start a podcast, and over 70,000, I guess, people in your tribe later. I mean, you are still growing and learning and sharing, which reminds us of the fact that you don't have to be an expert to start a podcast. You can start a podcast
Oh my
as
gosh.
a student, asking
Yes.
questions and figuring things
Yes.
out with people journeying with you. You don't have to be a sage.
Yes.
You can be a student. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, podcasting is so insane because when I messaged you a month ago for us to connect, I was like, hey, I just hit 88,000 followers today. I'm about to hit 98,000 today. So that's
Wow.
1 month, 10,000 new followers. Like this journey, like the whole God thing is just insane. And like that's just the basis for why and how. But just like the things, what I have learned about podcasting and how anybody can do it, even an idiot like me, and the courses I've paid for and the things that I've invested in. I'm so excited to share with you everything I know so that other people can feel empowered, can get after it, and just spread their message.
Yeah, yeah. Powerful, powerful. So when it comes to your day one of podcasting, journey back with us to when you first started. What were your initial challenges? Was it the gear, the software, the microphones? What was the hardest part for you to get started?
Ooh, this might be a little surprising to some people. The technology I thought would be number one, but I ended up speaking with a friend who used to have a podcast, and I said, "Listen, I don't know anything about audio levels. I don't know anything about editing, or technology. I literally bought a mic off of Facebook Marketplace. Now I have like a $60 mic off Amazon, so like I haven't progressed that much." But she said, "Listen, you're so late to the game. It's so easy to podcast because Riverside is the editing and recording software.
Yeah,
It plugs into Anchor, which is the RSS feed. I don't even know what that means. And then it directly publishes to Spotify. So technology wise, you're good." And I said, okay, I can do that then. The thing that really held me up, Coach GP, was recording myself.
mm,
It was, I had the guest, but it was showing up to someone I've never met in person and asking questions, not knowing how they'll respond and hoping we don't have any awkward pauses or moments where my mind goes blank, and then recording that on live air and putting it out. Like it was really just an emotional hurdle that kept me up for weeks. Like it prolonged my progress. And I knew all I had to do was just have a phone call. All it was a Zoom call just like this,
yeah,
and I couldn't. So that mental block really held me up. And I just had to be okay with it going horribly. That really was the solution. But it
yeah,
didn't. It went so well because I set up a call with my guest. We'd already spoken on the phone. I had already sent him the questions I was going to ask him. So we did all this prep work so that once we got on the call, sure, maybe there was a couple of moments where I had to, restate my question. But again, it's not live. Like you're live right now. So
yeah,
I would go into post and I would cut out the awkwardness and it was a great conversation. So it really is foolproof if you try to break it down to like the minutia of your errors.
yeah. And thank you for shouting out Riverside FM and saying to your audience and those listening here that you don't have to have a $500 microphone to get started. You can use a microphone to get started. But sometimes the biggest hurdle is the hurdle in our minds, and we get in
Yes.
our own way. And the reality is, some of us will not start until we get out of our own way and just
Yes.
start. And as we continue to do it, the more reps you get, the more comfortable you get doing it, and the better your episode. I guarantee you that your episode one was terrible, but now
Trash.
you can still champion and celebrate the journey, right? Because you've
Oh,
grown.
1,000%. 1,000%. And as their only way to get better is to keep doing it. I eventually started interviewing bigger names and, getting more bold in the way that I approach my guests. Like I found out when my star guest was on a different island, the next weekend speaking at a church. So I went to that island. I approached him at that church. He said yes, of course. He was so sweet. Dr. Hugh Ross, shout out to you. But because he's a more established um, like I encourage people if they're starting ones, like take notes and don't be afraid to copy what works. Like my whole prep process of sending show notes was modeled after Reasons to Believe because his assistant sent me these amazing pre-show notes that I just copied their template and now I use that to send pre-show notes to all my guests.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, you mentioned show notes. Give us your content workflow before you create an episode, before you think about who you're going to have as a guest. Give us a glimpse into your ecosystem.
Yeah. I think this pre-process is so much more important than you think. And this would probably stress me out more, but I just kind of followed what worked for me is I knew that on my show, there were a couple rules that we had to follow. And this has made it really easy to say no to people because it's like, listen, my rule is you have to have a PhD. I know that you probably have so much knowledge. And a lot of people disagree with me of like, well, you shouldn't just rely on scholars. You should listen to people that know the word. And I'm like, absolutely. But for me, for the show, it's PhDs. Or someone's like, well, you should go into Islam. You should go into more Jewishness. And it's like, okay, but for me, it's just the Bible. So keeping up those guardrails have allowed me to easily kind of deny people that don't fit the brand. But once I do find somebody, and typically it's just like I went into this with so many plans of like first season, Genesis, second season, women. Of course, that's not how it's going to work. It depends on the guest, and you have to have shows, in their area of expertise. I can't dictate what the conversation's going to be about, or else it's just going to be low quality. So when I find a guest that I think might be within the realm, let's say I have an astronaut, and it's like, okay, well, you have a PhD, but you're an astronaut. So do I even have questions for you that you can answer regarding the Bible? Because the second rule is it has to go back to the Bible. We
Yeah.
have to be able to go back to the Word of God because this whole thing started. The why was I opened my Bible with no idea what I was reading. So I need the scholar to give me context. What I do is I find them, I set up a phone call, and asking for 30 minutes of somebody's time, especially like a professor or PhD, is not a big ask. And you set up your programs to automate that however you want. But once I do get them on that phone call, it really is, hey, so great to meet you. This call is going to do two things: tell you about my podcast and see if you want to be a guest, what we could talk about. And just giving that bilateral, like that's the schedule for today, it sets up very easy flow of, who I am. Do we get along? Is there good rapport? Um, Once we do kind of map out what the topic is, I'm taking notes the entire time. So I have a running Excel sheet of every guest I've ever had and what their area of expertise is. It's kind of like my CRM.
Yeah.
With that, I say, oh, okay, we're going to talk about miracles. Okay, so I'm thinking we're gonna like what verse? Okay, where can we go with this? I'm thinking I can ask, like, I'm just thinking, what questions do I have about miracles? Because these are the smartest people I've ever met. And through this, I say, listen, the vibe is dinner conversation. So whatever we talk about, pretend that we're having dinner and I ask you about your work. This is not a lecture. This is not a whole like, oh gosh, let's keep it dumb simple. And I will hold you back if you start getting too smart on me because that will be fun for anybody listening that also doesn't know what's going on. Like I try to be the temperature of like we're going to keep it at a fifth grade reading level
Yeah.
because that's where I was. Like, who was Cassie 5 years ago? What does she need? This level of intellect. Um, so I map out all my notes. We have a structure, and I say, listen, this is what's going to happen next. Let's find a time in a month. I'll send the email invite or the calendar invite. Now it's on both our calendars. What I'm going to do is a week before, I'm going to send you a page of notes that outlines the entire show. And that's going to be based off today's conversation. And if you put it through AI just to structure it, I'm definitely guilty of that, but it's more so based on what we know about this person and based on what we talked about. How do we structure out 60 minutes that covers my questions that I have, but also kind of taps on your zone of genius? I'm going to send that to you and I lay this all out on the phone call. I'm going to send you these notes a week ahead. And then 30 minutes before the phone call, I'm going to send you a link to record on Riverside. And then 2 weeks later, we're going to post it and I'll send you the live links. So I paint out the entire journey that we're going to have together. And then if we want to maybe on the conversation, we say, oh my gosh, you got to come back on to talk about prayer. I make a note when I'm editing the next day after we record to say, hey, when I send you these live links, I'm going to say, thanks so much for coming on the show. Here are the live links. By the way, we discussed talking about prayer. Do you want to have another phone call to schedule the next call? And that's
Nice.
how, or if you don't even have that, you say, by the way, thanks for coming on the show. If you have any other friends that might want to come on the show, please make a soft introduction. And so that's how you keep that content evergreen and continually scheduled.
That is an awesome workflow. And that sounds very
Thank you.
strategic to me. I mean, I'm excited to hear that. And it's good for our audience to know that when you are podcasting, you should build an ecosystem, a workflow, so that you have a system that can
Yes,
keep you accountable and don't just try to wing it every time. Now,
a
you
1000%.
mentioned helping who you used to be. You've honed in on your target audience and you are dedicated to delivering to that specific audience. If you were to describe an avatar, how would you describe the avatar of your target audience?
I love this question. You have such good questions, Coach GP. I would say the ICP is me 5 years ago. So very, raised in the church, genuinely knows it's good for you, but genuinely confused. So probably a little uncomfortable, not fully going to Bible studies, but know that they should. I would say 20s, early 30s. Fresh out of college, like establishing their life phase of their life. So I wouldn't say like college, you're still figuring out who you want to be, but I was in the place of creating who I wanted to be. I had the job, I had the education, but like what does my house look like? What does my apartment look like? What does my workout look like? I'm figuring those things out. Um, so I would say like 20s to 30s, raised in the church but open to it, even spiritual people that are in the quote unquote new age and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to genuinely intellectually find feelings, not just emotionally. This was a very objective search. So that's why I think it's been very alluring to men equally, especially men in their older 50s, because it's a very intellectual conversation, not emotions based.
Yeah.
Secondly, when I was living in Hawaii, I had a lot of roommates. It was just like this open room that I lived in my apartment, and I lived with this girl who was atheist, worked in finance, my age, so like mid 20s, late 20s. And she looked at me one day before I started this podcast and she's like, Cass, you're so cool. You're so cool and you're so like fun, but you're Christian. Tell me about that. That actually sounds kind of interesting. And it was this like light bulb moment of like, oh, this is for you.
Yeah.
Like someone who isn't trying to get caught up in the faith or the religion of it all, just genuinely trying to understand something that is seemingly changing the world to someone who isn't in it. That's who it's for. And so I looked at her and I was like, oh my gosh, like you have no idea what you just did to me. So I would say it's for me 5 years ago, and I don't think we need to overcomplicate niche or ICP. It's you.
Yeah.
You're the one that created it because you struggled through it and overcame it. So it's for your old self.
Yeah, I love that answer. And you just shined a light on the fact that we should not just know our demographics, but their psychographics, which is how they think.
Yeah.
Like your audience
Yes.
is asking certain questions, your audience is sharing certain memes, your audience is obsessed with certain topics. And when you deliver on where they're itching, you are literally creating a show that becomes a solution to their questions or problems or pain points. And so thank you for sharing that about your audience.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yes. Now, when it comes to missional alignment and brand building, how do you stay focused in alignment with brand opportunities or brand sponsorships or people who may be interested in collaborating with you? What do you use as a filter or as a test to see whether that would help you stay on your missional assignment and alignment?
So I'm not a big fan of being salesy, and I'm quite new. I'm at the beginning of my like sponsorship journey, sorry. Um, but right now my current sponsorships are from people that I have personal connections with,
Mm.
one being Dwell Label. And for anybody that's like, why should I listen to Cass? Well, right now on Instagram there's 100,000 followers. It's a 4.6 star rated show and like 40,000 monthly listens. So I would say like my zone of genius and success lies specifically with content marketing on social media. Collectively on Instagram, I've had a lot of success working with tools that make sense for my ICP. So while I would love to have great brand deals with a electrolyte drink or Gymshark, which I'm not going to not pursue, because I think that people that go to the gym and people that hydrate should be listening to the word of God.
Yep.
Maybe people that sell liquid IV, they're like, listen, we like the churchgoers, how can we make this mutualistic? But at the end of the day, from a brand perspective, if I can't personally integrate the product into the problems that I'm facing, like uh I like right now I partner with Logo Software, which is actually a software that approached me, and they're what pastors use. So
Yep.
they came to me and they said, listen, you're talking to directly the people that we want to talk to. And so they gave me the entire software for free. Right now for anybody, it's $10 a month. So it's a great software just for the layperson. But I'm like, okay, I can promote anything. We can talk about how great it is, all the keywords, but can I actually use this?
Yeah.
And so instead of forcefully creating scripts of ads, I just genuinely started using the product. So as I read the Bible, I would say, oh, there's a talking donkey. That doesn't make any sense in the word. I'm genuinely confused. And I don't have a scholar with me right now because I'm in my personal devotion time. So I'm just going to use this tool and see if it helps. And so it did. And then I just recorded that entire interaction. I had a question, so I used logos, and this is what it said, and now it makes sense. If you want to use it, here's the link. And
Yeah.
that's the ad. And we're seeing ads move towards that place of genuine usage, actual alignment. I don't need to tell you how soft everything is. I can say, look, genuinely, this was my experience and it worked. And if it doesn't, then I don't think that's the right product for me to use. And maybe I'm speaking too soon and I'll bite my tongue when I have a huge deal one day. I don't know. But I do think that just from a brand perspective, you build trust with your audience by being honest and not being salesy. And some people have mastered that art. I have not. I'm still leading with authenticity because that's my entire brand. And when it comes to monetization, I have spent $10,000 on coaches, coaches, on courses, on just learning how to monetize. And a lot of people you see right now are going down the route of, I'm the content expert, I'm the expert in this area. And I had to be very authentic with, okay, well, if this is how people are making money, I can't be a part of that because I'm not a coach.
Mm.
I haven't aligned myself. I haven't positioned myself to be a coach. I've positioned myself to be someone curious and confused. Why would you take advice from me? We are in this together and I'm facilitating learning. So,
Yeah.
how do you monetize that? Well, we're trying out a few things and we're learning along the way, but I think it's so important to, if you build a brand, to be especially authentic to how you started, why you started, and only creating opportunities that align with that. I can't suddenly make money from being a coach if I've never coached anybody because I've positioned myself as a person of learning.
Right.
I hope that makes sense. I kind of ranted a bit.
Oh, yes. Makes perfect sense because Logos is all about helping people find answers to their biblical questions. It's a resource. It's I think they
Do you
just
use logos?
yeah, I do. They just recently moved to a subscription model, but I mean,
Yes.
it's a valuable resource. And I think that when you are using the product that you recommend, it makes it all the more powerful and all the more relatable. You're not just promoting a product. You have a
Yes.
relationship and a knowledge of the product, and you're just being honest about your experience. And people
Yes.
will buy from something you share because they know, like, and trust you. And that is the relational cachet that you have with them. They listen to your
Yeah.
voice, they trust you, they learn from you, and so when you make a recommendation, they will take it to heart, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. 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 I completely agree. But there's so many tools. I mean, I didn't know about any of these when I was starting podcasting. I
Yeah.
was manually building everything. And I wish if I could go back, I wish I would started collecting emails sooner. I wish I would have started asking for donations sooner. I
Yeah.
didn't start that till a year and a half in
Wow.
because it felt weird. But I also think that that gave me a benefit of being like, listen, guys, we've done like a year and a half of free stuff, like the least you could do. But I think as a podcaster, like you should realize only 2% of your followers see your content.
Yep.
So repost the good content, post again. Don't feel like all of 100,000 or 2,000 people see 100% of your posts. So it felt very good to be like, oh, I got 10,000 new followers since last time we spoke. Um, I'm gonna post it like nobody's ever met me before. And
Yeah.
that's my cadence every time I post anything is you've never seen my face or heard me, despite having this many followers. I'm sure
Yeah.
that they haven't.
Yeah, and that takes a level of humility to acknowledge that you will always be discovered. Even if you have
Yes.
1 million followers, there will be people around the world who have no
Yes.
idea that you've existed. But once they find you, because of your specificity and your message that resonates with them, they're going to automatically journey with you for the rest of the way. And so the reality
Yes.
is, listen, on day one, you will not have everything, but one day you'll have it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so good for the ego too, just to assume that no one's ever met you. And I think one thing that helped me was hearing Hermosi. I think he said, like, Jake Paul, he, like, being canceled. Nobody's ever truly canceled until they're like unable to sell anything. But even, I would say, like, Jake Paul, they did that one video, got canceled because of like the forest thing, lost, I don't know, 10 million followers, rebuilt, and now they have 100 million. So even at that level, you
Yep.
are still discoverable.
Yep.
And if they can do that at 1 million, me at 10,000, I think I can still reintroduce myself each time.
Right. Right. Now, when it comes to your platform and the movement that you've been building, what advice would you give to a content creator on remaining consistent? Maybe they've been podcasting for a few months or even 2 or 3 years, and it just seems like their audience is growing like a snail, and they're tempted to go on TikTok to try to go viral. But how do you help them understand that if you're faithful and consistent, you will continue to grow?
Yes, yes. If you worship the social media God, he will be faithful. No, I'm just kidding. I think, yeah, I would say everyone says don't look at the numbers. I got very lucky because I went viral 2.5 months in. Like, I woke up New Year's Eve of 2024 or New Year's Day of 2024 with like thousands of messages. It was just one video. So I got
Wow.
very lucky early on. But then I was lazy and I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to optimize this. So I want to say like 9 months later when I took a month break because I traveled and then I started posting every day. Like this was my only content strategy was have a podcast, take clips, post it on social media just as a free ad to say, hey, this exists and here's an ad for it. If you want it, there's a link in my bio. That was my only content
Wow.
strategy. I took Instagram seriously, and then I would randomly test stuff on TikTok. I didn't really care about TikTok. And then YouTube I didn't take seriously at all. I'm kicking myself for that because I feel like that is like the new gold mine. Um,
Not too
for
late.
anybody that maybe exactly, no, we're capitalizing. I would say for anybody that's just like, I'm not getting views, I would say take advantage of not having views. Take advantage of how you can try everything. Do you want to respond to comments? Do you want to duet popular videos? Do you want to just post clips of from the podcast? Do you want to do hot takes? Do you want to shit post? I'm sorry for cussing, but do you just want to say like I hate what they're doing? Like you can try everything and the consequences are so low when
Yep.
it comes to oh this flopped. Cool, no one saw it. Don't do that anymore. Oh, this got 10% or this 3x your viewer. Do more of that. The whole content game isn't which post is going to go viral. It's I get to try everything and I do more of what works. So the only way you can succeed in content is by trying everything. And I do this with my sister. She has her own business and I help her with content. She's like, "Well, that's not aligned with my brand." And I'm like, "Lovingly, you have 200 followers. I feel like it's and she's so afraid as a therapist if it will hurt her brand. But I think though, you think too highly of yourself.
Mm.
I think that you need to let it go a little bit and understand. And maybe that's just me. I'm a spicy person. I like putting my stick in the sand, but I found a lot of success. It's the internet. You have to understand, nobody, you included, don't go back on other people's profiles to see, oh, they posted the same thing last week. Gosh, we don't have that. Like Instagram is a 0.3 second experience per video.
Right.
They've never met you. They will not remember you until it's a great video and then they'll want more of that great video and you'll know if it's great because then you just keep posting it. That's the game. So just be I would say enjoy the freedom and like the boundless land that you get to explore being new at this.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful, wonderful word of advice because some folks are afraid to experiment to see what works, what sticks. And so you have the freedom to flop in privacy. Like you have a small
Yes.
audience, all right? So enjoy that because once you get to 1 million followers, you're going to be very careful about what you post, when you post, what direction you go, and you'll almost be walking on
Absolutely.
eggshells
Yes.
because you got to deliver. All right. So
A
when
thousand
it comes
percent.
to podcasting and creating content, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned personally from creating content?
The biggest lesson I've learned, I would say, and it's hard with content specifically because it changes so fast. And with social media, the fastest, but with podcasting, it's almost like it's just catching up. It's so niche. I would say I would value personal connection above all else. When
Mm,
it comes to podcasting at a high level, working collaboratively, like I always think of podcasting as like Hollywood in the 1950s. You can approach other podcasters right now and they will respond. Nobody's higher up than each other. It's not like the Hollywood yet of the untouchables.
right.
You can probably DM most podcasters and they would respect the grind. So I would say be very collaborative. I wish I was like, we met over Podmatch.
Yep.
I wish I'm so sorry about that. I wish I'd known about Podmatch because now I'm able to get on other shows, like 5 in a single month.
Yeah.
I would say with podcasting, be very collaborative, be very realistic, give more than you take. And that's the best way to succeed. You're like, if you're gonna, and then if you're gonna partner with a sponsor or partner with a brand, over deliver. Do not be shy about that. Do not feel like you're being taken advantage of. It'll only 2x what you get in return, either through money or referrals or just like opportunity. And then when it comes to social media, I would say be very intentional with your audience. Like,
Mm,
don't, I was very egotistical when I started getting a lot of DMs, thinking I don't have to respond. And I wish I did. I wish I built real relationships with more people. I just liked their message and moved on. I wish I would have engaged in more conversation because we're seeing a lot of businesses thrive with 2,000 followers
yep,
versus 50,000. So
yep,
I would say you cannot overestimate the value of human connection in this digital experience, especially in podcasting, where it's probably the most real experience we can have because it's face to face, it's voice, it's not digital,
yeah,
it's not edited, it's very real and raw.
yeah, yeah. Well said. I always say to people, audio builds intimacy, but video builds engagement. And
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
the greatest asset in podcasting is relationships.
Yes.
You
Yes.
meet the
A
most
thousand percent.
amazing people, you connect with them on a deeper level. And so, if you have a podcast show, you have more than just a show. You have a movement, and you are inviting people on a journey with you for the long haul. And so, take it seriously, invest in it, get better every time, study how to grow your craft, and your audience will be appreciative of that effort.
I completely agree. Yeah, take feedback as like I struggle with this because I'm not good at analytics. Like the whole numbers things makes my eyes spin, but I think that I overestimated my progress, being like, okay, I have a podcast, so I need a newsletter, and I need a membership community, and I need a funnel, and I'm kicking myself because I acted too fast. And
Yeah,
I wish I would have just like read comments and been like, what do you guys want? And
right.
then just naturally gone in that direction. Like everybody's like, you should have the many scholars on for one topic. And I'm like, so much editing, but like if that's what people want, that's the direction I should go in. And yeah, I wouldn't, it's not that complicated. You don't have to overthink it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with the time that we have left, if you could give yourself on day one as a podcaster some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my gosh. Um, I would say, I would honestly say spend more time. Don't underestimate how impactful this is going to be. I was just looking at my stats on Spotify for creators, which is the platform I use, and it said that my podcast has been heard in 120 countries,
Awesome.
which made me bawl my eyes out because I thought maybe my mom might listen, maybe my dad. And to think that somebody in Namibia or somebody in Kenya or somebody in these countries I didn't even know existed had listened to my voice, even for 2 seconds. You how do you even curate that forcefully? Like that's an impact that is unfathomable. And so I would say if you're going to podcast, like buckle up.
Yeah,
I would say this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it and it's going to be fun and you're going to get out what you put in. And I dedicated an obscene amount of time to this and I lost a lot of social time to this, but it was worth it. Like it's totally okay to leave the party early because you got to edit for 4 hours on a Sunday night,
yeah.
like it'll be worth it.
Oh, phenomenal, phenomenal. And please give a shout out to your own podcast, the name, where they can
Yeah.
listen to it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It's called Biblically Speaking. I hope that if you are questioning your faith, whether you're Catholic or Orthodox or, Protestant, I hope that you give it a listen and just learn about your faith. And everything I do, whether it's connect with me or buy my merch or, get a free guide on the top 7 verses that we've been taught wrong our entire lives, you can get all of that at bibspeak.com. That's www.bibspeak.com. But if you want to connect with me personally, find me on Instagram. Everywhere it's This Is Biblically Speaking. I messed up the branding there, but if you go to This Is Biblically Speaking on Instagram or TikTok, I'm there. I'm live. I'm active every single day, and I would love to personally connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cass, for sharing your
Thank you.
story and your powerful movement. And we pray that God will continue to bless all of your efforts and that you would continue to climb higher and higher heights each and every episode. Thank you again for sharing with my audience.
Thank you for such amazing questions, Coach GP. Thank you so much.
It was truly an honor. And thank you, audience, for listening in to this amazing conversation. Take care.